Alright, welcome back to Q2 Week 6, Day 3. These blocks were made for walking, and that's what they're gonna do. Pretty soon these blocks are gonna walk all over 3D Studio. Yeah, I'm gonna take that one on the road. Alright, so today we're gonna learn about multiple animation tracks by creating a simple walk cycle with the guy that we made yesterday. Or girl that you made yesterday. Or alien thing, whatever you want. So today we have the person we had yesterday that we made, or from earlier today if you're a go-getter. I'm going to take this person and I'm going to move them around and try and get a walk cycle out of them. But in order to do that, we have to understand a few things. Now, at the beginning of the week, we learned about the timeline and the time bar, and we learned about some of the different animation setups here. Today, we're going to learn a little more about that, and we're going to focus first on setting this person up for walking. All right, so let's do this. So if I grab the torso and hit W, I want this person to be walking on this plane here, all right, on the grid. So I'm going to hit F for front, and I'm going to drag. What if I drag this? It's a separate object. It's not going to go with it. So what we need to do is we need to link the objects. We've linked before, but this will be one of the very first times we're really linking for a purpose. So what we're doing is we're going to attach all of these extra objects, all of your head, your legs, and all that stuff. We're going to attach all of that to the torso, because the torso is going to be our root. Okay. The parent-child relationships work like this. Whenever the child moves, it moves on its own. But when the parent moves, it drags the child with it. Okay. So I'm going to select by using Q, hold Control, and select all these other pieces. Now I'm going to this button up here called Select and Link. So I've got all these pieces selected, but nothing's actually happened yet. I actually have to click on them and drag, and you get this weird like dotted lines to going to each one's pivot point. So I'm clicking and left dragging. I'm just doing this to show you. Once you've got them all, move over what you want to link it to and let go, like that. It'll flash, and now when I hit W and move this torso, it'll all move together. However, if I move one piece, it can still move on its own. I went ahead and undid that by right-clicking it. But the object itself, if I move from the torso, it moves together. That's great. Which is really that's really what we want. Okay, so today, like I said, we are going to set this person so they're standing on 0, 0, 0. So hit left, drag them up from the chest. Remember, if you grab anywhere else, it's not going to move right. So we're there, we're good. Okay, now from the left, my person's going to walk straight across. So I'm actually going to move them back by 100. Okay, so I have W selected. I'm going to get their position. Let's see. On the y-axis, there, I'm going to set them to 100. Yeah, 100. Yes, 100. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make them walk forward. Okay, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to set up some keyframes. And they're going to go, actually, instead of 100, let's do 75, because that won't be quite so big a strides. So 75 units behind. Okay, so I set Y to 75 for my position. Now I'm going to actually turn on set key mode. Now we're going to use auto key a little bit later, but for now let's just use set key mode. What we want to do is we're going to just move the torso. All right, the torso is the parent, so all the other limbs will come with it, but the torso is what we're moving. So first we're going to set a key by clicking this key button at 0. And then drag all the way to the end and set the key button at 0 again. Alright? Now once again, just like with our ball, nothing happens. What we need to do is figure out how this is going to function. So at the end, I actually didn't want this to be set to 0. Okay, so what do? Well, I can delete that key by clicking in here, clicking and dragging, highlighting it, hitting delete. Okay, what I really want to do is move this keyframe all the way to frame 100, or move the timeline slider to 100. So I'm on frame 100. I'm going to change the Y value to -75 so that they move 150 total across 0. And then I'm going to hit the key button again. Now our person starts to slide. Whee! If you hit play, they slide like this. Cool. Fancy. Actually, it looks pretty bad. Nobody slides like that. We need to make them move. Alright, so let's make them move. So we need their feet, we need their legs to take steps, right? So let's go back to the beginning. Now, where'd my keyframes go? Well, my torso has its own timeline. My legs have their own timeline, so they have done nothing yet. Okay? So let's go back and rotate his leg. Uh-oh, that's not right. We can't have it rotate from there. That won't make any sense. So what do we need to do? Well, first things first, we need to get rid of a key, turn off our set key system. Okay, now what we need to do is adjust the pivot points. So I'm going to adjust this pivot point for this object. Alright, I'm going to hit W. So I select this, and I can go to the Hierarchy tab up here. And then I'm going to Affect Pivot Only. I want the pivot, we should probably be moving it in the local, because we want to move it up along its own object. Right? If we could also set it to world, that would be fine, especially if we want to make sure it's the exact same as the other. Now, we could actually move the pivot so it's not in the object at all. So it's up here in the hips. And that might actually kind of work out well. Let's go ahead and move it all the way up to, let's see, on Z, I'm going to make it 38. 38, enter. Alright, cool. So that's actually inside the box. So that's where its pivot's going to be. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing for this one. I'm going to set it to 38, like that. Alright, cool. Cool, cool. So actually it's going to pivot from outside of its own, body, which is kind of cool. Alright, let's do the same thing for the arms, because whether you knew it or not, it had the same problem, because we copied them the same way. So we're going to affect the pivot, hit W, we're on world location. I'm going to adjust the pivot so it's up here, and maybe even so it's in there. So I'm actually moving it along the X and Y axes, or X and Z, not Y. So my X is going to be 12, right? And my Z is going to be 74. All right, which means I can click over here, do the same number. Z is going to be 74. But before I was at 12, so this will be -12. 12. All right. So there's my pivot. Now I can turn off my pivots. Now when I go into world, when I change, now remember each one of these tools, select and move, select and rotate, select a non-uniform scale. Whenever you change it, it remembers what your coordinate systems were when you last used it. So we want to make sure, we go to local for our rotation as we work today. We're going to be working on our local rotation. All right. So, great. We should be rotating along our x-axis. In game development, we always want to work up the x-axis because the major rotation needs to happen first, and game engines work in XYZ Euler rotation order. So, we always want to make sure our primary form of rotation is along x, which in our case is red. So, luckily, we've set that up today, so that worked out well. With bones, it's a much bigger deal. Today, we're just sort of, farting around. So, in the left track. So now we've got all this set up. It's all good. Now we can actually start worrying about our animation. So we know that right now there's nothing set. Although we probably want we want to have our transitions here. So we want to make sure that as we move across, we're taking steps, right? So our first step is going to be at 25, and then our legs will come together at 50, and our next step will cross or be fully extended at 75, and then we'll come together at 100. Okay, so that's our goal. So our goal for our legs, at least, and I grab both of them, is I'm going to set a keyframe. So I hit K at the beginning, right? And I'm going to go all the way to the end. I'm going to make sure I hit the K again to make sure, we have another set. All right, so there we go. 2 sets. Now we know that our legs cross as we walk. So we're probably going to have them cross at 50 just to keep it nice and smooth. So we're going to set another simple keyframe there. Now in between, at frame 25, we're going to take one leg, pick one. We're going to move it forward by, let's say, 25 degrees, right? So I moved it forward by 25 degrees. Let's go 30. Okay, so I've got 30 degrees of rotation in that front leg. My right leg is moving forward. And I'm going to set a key. I'm going to grab my left leg, move it back 30 degrees. I'm going to set a key there. Okay, so now we got a step, and then we slide. So let's go to frame 75. Before here, at 25, my right leg went first. So over here, I'm going to have my left leg go first. And I'm going to keep the same distance. When I say 30 degrees, keyframe by K, 30 degrees, keyframe by K. All right, so left. It's perspective view. Let's watch them walk. Boink, boink. Now, that's a Minecraft walk if I ever saw it. Doesn't look great, but it's better than sliding, right? I would think so. Now, when we walk, we don't just slide, and we certainly don't float like that. We actually move up and down a little bit. So let's do that too. So we're going to start here with our feet on the ground. Now at 25, our feet need to be on the ground again. So I'm going to actually move the torso by selecting the torso. Right? Now we know here our feet are going to be on the ground again, so I think I'm going to make sure that that's set as well. So I'm going to try auto key. So turn on auto key. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to frame 50 or 25, and we're just going to scroll or pull them down a little bit like that. And when we do that, you'll notice you get a little red key. All right, the red key is for moving, selecting and moving. So it keeps track of our transform. So now you'll notice he sort of dips down, then he should come back up. But he didn't because we forgot to set a key initially. So I'm going to set a key here, then go back to 25 and bring him down. Once again, auto key still on. You can still set keys in auto key, so don't be afraid of that. When you set key, it does everything: translation, scaling, and rotation. All right, so now we've got that. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to move him down a little bit so that his feet are actually in the ground. So now it looks like he's walking. Boink. See his head? It's actually moving a little bit. Moving up and down. Great. Now, the key here is understanding key. Get it? The main idea here is understanding that every single piece here has its own track bar. Right? It has its own timeline. If you forget about that and you start moving things, for instance, I know that I want the arms to swing, right? And we want the arms to swing in separate directions, right? So we know at the center they're going to be crossing. So I'm going to set a key here. And do I have anything selected? Yes. I'm going to set a key there. And if I go here and start rotating stuff, so I'm going to grab one of these, move it back like 20 degrees. All right. I should go to auto key just because I said I would earlier. So I'm going to go to auto key, set it back by 20 degrees, 15, 20. All right. The problem is, because I did that before I set a key initially, it stays that way because that's the first key that it interacts with. All right. So what I need it to do is I need it to start with this key. We can actually do that because I've got that selected. I can actually hold shift and drag a key all the way back to the beginning, and it copies that key. So now I've got this where he sort of steps back, Now we can do the front part. So from here we're going to go 20 degrees forward. Auto key is set. So now we got one arm that's smooth. But once again, I forgot at the end, so I need to take this key, or I could take the first key. Actually, probably is a lot smarter to take the first key, because we know when it cycles through the animation, we want it to be identical. So there's that. Alright, now let's grab our other arm and fix it. Alright, once again, there's no keyframes here. This time I'm going to be smart. I'm going to set a key at the beginning, go to the end, set a key at the end, and now I can just look at it. So at 25, we did 20 degrees, so I'm going to do 20 degrees again. Alright, and then 20 at frame 75, I'm going to do 20 degrees again. Cool. So now, boop, boop, boop. It's much, much better looking. Much better looking. Alright, so that's the basic idea. Alright, now everything is adjustable. So let's say for our head, I'm going to start out by setting a key, by pressing K, go to the end, set a key. Now go to the middle, 50, and I'm going to scale his head up. Alright, now auto key's on. So what happens? Gets a big head and shrinks again. Okay, now that's not the only thing we can do while we're here. We can actually go to rotation. So once we get here, we can also set rotation. So maybe he's going to be like, oh yeah. Right, so we're going to move it down. So he's going to be like, whoa, big head. Maybe 25. He'll be looking up. And down. And at 75, he looks up again. He's like, oh yeah. Look at that big head. Alright. Now, that's pretty cool. And we can do a whole lot with that. But really, in a game engine, we don't want them to move. We want them to stay still and do all of this animation without moving. And that's where we're going to get into the mini curve editor. In the mini curve editor, we can do a ton of stuff. Some of the most important things is making animations look smooth. Okay? The problem is right now, as we animate, as it loops back on itself, it hitches real bad. Boom, like that. That's not going to be good. We want it to be smooth. Okay? The big problem is he's moving. He's actually moving from one place to the next. And that's all happening in the torso, right? Because the torso is controlling everything. And you can see this green line is our transform position, right? Our position is the Y position. Remember, we moved from 75 to negative 70, or whatever. We moved him across with the torso. We can actually just delete that by selecting all of these and hitting delete. Okay? Now we can play the animation, and he actually won't move. The whole animation takes place, but there's no motion. It's really helpful to have motion when we're trying to figure out exactly how he's supposed to look. But if we just want, let's see, I want to move him there. If we just want to know what the animation will look like by itself, we don't want it to move. So now if we play it, it should be smoother, right? It is. It's a lot smoother. However, there's still a weird pause right there. It's not as smooth as it could be. See how he actually stops for just a split second. Boop. It's smooth, but it's still not as smooth as it could be. He also looks like he's just on a Nordic track or something. Alright, so what's going on here is that all of our tracks, right, all of our objects have these curves. And all of the curves, the default for curves is to slowly start, speed up to the next part, and then slowly move out and then speed up and move through. Okay? So whenever these systems hit one of these locations, it tries to slow down the animation and change less. So whenever there's a middle point between two lumps or motion, you can actually delete that, and it makes a smoother curve. All of these can go, really. So now the curve is smoother. So in the middle, that actually will make the whole thing smoother. Okay, we can actually highlight everything and look at all the curves at once. Alright, now we can't get rid of all of them, but we can definitely get rid of some. like maybe this one. We could probably delete that, and that will make all of our curves through there smoother. Now we also have a problem on the ends, okay? Because we said before, right here is the real problem. The problem is it's trying to slowly transition when we need it to move through these quickly. So I can actually highlight this and highlight this and change the type of keyframe it is. Right now it's called a slow tangent, okay? Because it tries to ease into motion. Because most people, when you walk, all things, when they start moving, they start off slow and then they gain speed. Even things that seem really fast to us start off a lot slower. Like a bullet in a gun. All right, it doesn't start and it's not immediately going full speed. It actually speeds up as it comes out of the barrel of the gun. So anyway, so we want to set the tangents to fast, and you're going to see how much of a difference that makes. All right, here we go. We're going to play. It's going to be nice and smooth. See that? There's no hitch in the middle. He doesn't slow down his legs as he comes back through. It's just even, smooth motion. The head isn't great. I mean, the head isn't great. Let's be serious. Getting a head bigger, not a good idea. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. All right. I can tell that that was the only one getting bigger because it was the only arc that was moving up. So that's good. You can also see here where the transitions are. Okay. So we can get these frames. Let's see, what is this? Is that my position? It's my rotation. Okay, so I could take these and move them around a little bit so that they're more smooth. I could highlight them all, and each one of these, if I wanted them linear, like the bouncing ball, I could do it like that. Or if they were fast, so it's even more bouncy. Linear is very much like a machine, so it will move all the way down, hit a hard stopping point, and then jerk back in the opposite direction. So you can see where that is. We probably do want these to be slow. You can actually adjust the spline too. A spline is just like we learned with the remember when we used lines to make things. And that's the same sort of process. Auto tangents can make the whole thing look a little bit more smooth, like that. Cool, cool, cool. And that should probably be slow. All right, that's it. That's basically it. At this point, I want you to go through, look at all the different videos. Take the time, do some cool stuff. Maybe do a jump kick or a flip or something. Try and really get some concepts of preparing to do a move, right? So before he's going to jump, he's going to have to crunch up a little bit to sort of prepare, right? So he might do something like this and move his legs forward like that, and he might move his arms like this, right? So he's getting ready to jump, right? Well, now I just look silly, but you get the idea. So yeah, think about that. Try and do some more animation. Take your time today to try and get something cool, very cool looking, you know? Make it good. All right, and if you just got to the walk cycle, great. The goal here today was, he's dancing. The goal here today was really for you to understand how to use the timeline, how to animate, how to understand how keyframes work. This may have taken you a long time. It may have been very frustrating, and that's okay. This is one of those things that the more you do it, the better you get at it, and you'll really start to understand it eventually. I promise. I promise. I promise. Right? So does he. You know, wave at you. Bye-bye. Have a good one. I hope you enjoyed your time. Bye-bye.